Jake Mitchell stood at the observation window of the transport ship, watching the massive structure grow larger as they approached. Nexus Prime was unlike anything humanity had ever built. The station stretched across space like a small city, its lights twinkling against the darkness. After 200 years of dreaming about the stars, humans were finally here, meeting the galactic community. "It's beautiful," Lisa Morgan said, joining him at the window. She was Earth's lead ambassador, chosen for her skill with words and her calm nature. "Hard to believe we're really doing this." Jake nodded. He had spent 20 years in Earth's space navy before becoming a diplomat. He had seen war, peace, and everything between, but nothing prepared him for this moment. "Let's hope they like us," he said quietly. The docking procedure took an hour. When the airlock finally opened, they were greeted by 3 aliens. One looked like a tall, thin bird with blue feathers. Another resembled a walking crystal that reflected light in rainbow patterns. The third was hard to describe, something like a floating jellyfish made of silver mist. "Welcome," the bird-like alien said through a translation device. "I am Speaker Ven. The Galactic Assembly has waited long to meet your species." The first day went well. Jake and Lisa presented humanity's achievements. They showed images of Earth, the moon colonies, Mars settlements, and the 23 worlds humans now called home. They shared human music, art, and literature. The assembly members seemed impressed. But on the second day, everything changed. Ben Carter, the team's chief scientist, was asked to provide biological samples and genetic data. It was standard procedure, they were told. Every species joining the assembly went through the same process. Ben agreed without hesitation. 6 hours later, the assembly called an emergency session. Jake, Lisa, and Ben were brought into a massive chamber. Thousands of aliens filled the seats, representing 47 different species. The air felt heavy with tension. Speaker Ven stood at the center podium. His feathers, which had been bright blue before, now looked dark and ruffled. "We have completed our analysis of human biology and history," he announced. "The results are troubling." Lisa stepped forward. "What did you find?" "Your species evolved through constant warfare," another alien said. This one looked like a large insect with 6 arms. "Your genetic code shows adaptation for violence. Your history shows thousands of years of conflict. Even now, after achieving space travel, you still maintain weapons and armies." "Every species has conflict in its past," Lisa argued. "We've learned from our mistakes. We've built a united world government. We've had peace for 70 years. 70 years is nothing," the crystal being said, its voice like wind chimes. "Your evolution has programmed you for aggression. Our scientists predict that within 2 generations, humans will begin another cycle of warfare. We cannot risk the safety of the assembly." Jake felt his blood run cold. "What are you saying?" Speaker Ven's next words fell like hammers. "The Galactic Assembly votes to exile humanity. You will return to your space. A barrier will be erected around your sector. You may not leave. You may not contact us. This decision is final." Lisa's face went pale. "You can't do this. We came here in peace. We want to learn, to share, to be part of something greater." "Your intentions may be peaceful now," the insect alien said, "but your nature will betray you. We have seen it before with other aggressive species. They always turn violent eventually. We will not risk galactic stability." "At least give us a chance to prove ourselves," Ben pleaded. "Study us longer, set up observation posts, create probation periods. There must be another way." But the assembly had made its decision. The vote was called. 45 species voted for exile. Only 2 voted against it. The next day, Jake, Lisa, and Ben were escorted back to their ship. As they departed Nexus Prime, they watched in horror as ships began placing enormous devices around human space. Ben's instruments detected massive energy readings. "They're building the barrier now," Ben said, his voice hollow. "It's quantum-based technology, way beyond anything we have. It's going to seal us in completely." Lisa sat down heavily, her head in her hands. "How do I tell Earth? How do I tell 8 billion people that we've been rejected by the galaxy? That we're being locked away like criminals?" Jake stood at the window, watching the barrier devices activate. A faint shimmer began to appear in space, like looking through water. "We tell them the truth," he said. "We tell them that the galaxy judged us without knowing us, and then we figure out what to do next." The journey home took 3 weeks. During that time, the barrier completed. It formed a sphere around all human territory, cutting them off from the rest of the galaxy. Ships could not pass through it. Signals could not penetrate it. Humanity was alone. When they reached Earth, the news had already spread. The mood in the capital was dark. People gathered in streets, angry and confused. How could the advanced species of the galaxy be so cruel? How could they condemn humanity without a fair chance? In an emergency session, Earth's government met with leaders from all 23 colonies. Lisa delivered her report, holding back tears as she described the assembly's verdict. "They called us dangerous," she said. "They said our nature would betray us. They locked us away like animals in a cage." An old general named Kyle Hayes stood up. He had fought in the last war before global peace, 70 years ago. "Then we prove them wrong," he said firmly. "They think we're prisoners. We treat this like a challenge. We use this time to build, to advance, to become better than they ever imagined." Jake looked at Kyle with new respect. "What do you suggest?" "We explore our cage," Kyle said. "We find its weaknesses. We develop technology they've never seen. And most importantly, we never let them break our spirit. Humanity didn't conquer Earth by giving up. We won't give up now." In the weeks that followed, something unexpected happened. Instead of despair, humanity felt determination. The barrier was not a prison, they decided. It was a crucible. And from that crucible, something new would emerge. None of them could know it yet. But humanity's exile would become the galaxy's greatest miscalculation. 25 years had passed since the barrier went up. Kyle Hayes, now in his 90s but kept healthy by advanced medicine, stood in the control room of humanity's most secret facility. Project Exodus had been his idea, born on that dark day when Earth learned it was alone. "Run the simulation again," Kyle ordered. Amy Sullivan, the project's lead xenobiologist, tapped commands into her console. She was only 30 years old, born after the exile, part of a new generation that had never known the galaxy beyond the barrier. For her, the barrier was not a punishment, but a puzzle to solve. "The quantum field is too stable," she reported. "Every probe we send gets destroyed instantly. It's like trying to push through solid steel." Kyle studied the data. They had tried everything: ships, probes, missiles, even experimental matter-phasing devices. Nothing worked. The barrier was perfect. "What about the natural anomaly readings?" he asked. Amy pulled up a new screen. "That's more interesting. We've detected 17 locations where space itself seems unstable. They might be natural wormholes, places where space-time is thin. Can we use them?" "Maybe, but we don't know where they lead." Kyle smiled. "Then we find out. Prepare an exploration team." 3 months later, Captain Ryan Torres guided his small scout ship toward the first anomaly. It was located at the edge of human space, near a dying star. His crew consisted of just 4 people, all volunteers who understood the mission might be one way. "Approaching the anomaly now," Ryan reported. "Space is definitely weird here. Sensors are going crazy." Through the viewport, space looked wrong. It twisted and bent like looking through broken glass. Ryan had explored dozens of star systems, but nothing like this. "Taking us in," he said. The ship shuddered. Reality seemed to stretch. For a moment, Ryan felt like he was in two places at once. Then suddenly, everything snapped back to normal. "Status report," Ryan called out. "We're through," his navigator said, voice filled with wonder. "And we're definitely not in human space anymore." The star maps showed completely unfamiliar territory. They had bypassed the barrier. Over the next 2 years, Ryan and other exploration teams mapped 12 working wormholes. Each led to different regions of unexplored space, areas the Galactic Assembly had never bothered to visit. And in that empty space, they found something unexpected: life. Amy Sullivan floated in zero gravity, facing the first alien humanity had met in 27 years. It didn't look like the assembly species. This being resembled a cluster of floating crystals, each one glowing with soft purple light. "I am Amy," she said slowly, using the new translation device Kyle's team had built. "We come from Earth. We mean no harm." The crystals chimed like bells. The translator worked, turning the sounds into words. "I am collector of the Velocian cluster. We know of Earth. The Assembly spoke of your exile." Amy's heart raced. "You know about us?" "The Assembly deemed this region worthless," Collector explained. "They sent one survey mission decades ago and never returned. We have lived here for thousands of years, ignored and forgotten." "Why didn't you contact the Assembly?" "We tried. They were not interested in species that live in dead space, as they call it. We were not useful to them." Over the following weeks, Amy learned the Velocian story. They were an ancient species, peaceful and wise. The Assembly had met them once, decided they had nothing to offer, and left them alone. The Velocians held no anger about it. They simply continued their existence. "Are there others like you?" Amy asked. "Yes, many species in these forgotten regions. Some gaseous, some mechanical, some biological, all rejected or ignored by the Assembly." Amy sent her report back to Earth. Kyle read it 3 times, his old hands shaking with excitement. "Don't you see?" he told the Coalition Council. "The Assembly doesn't just exile dangerous species. They ignore anyone who doesn't fit their narrow view of useful. There's a whole community of species out here waiting to be contacted." Lisa Morgan, now Earth's Chancellor, understood immediately. "We could build alliances." "More than that," Kyle said. "We could build something new, something better than the Assembly." The decision was made to send out first contact teams to every species the Velocians knew about. Ryan Torres led most of these missions, becoming humanity's greatest explorer. The Frenthi were beings of living gas, floating in the upper atmosphere of giant planets. The Assembly had visited them once, couldn't figure out how to communicate, and left. But Amy's new translation technology worked perfectly. The Frenthi were poets and philosophers, delighted to finally talk with other intelligent life. The Cricks were insect-like beings living in asteroid colonies. The Assembly considered them too primitive because they didn't build planet-side cities. But the Cricks were master engineers, able to construct habitats in the harshest environments. They had been waiting centuries for someone to see their worth. One by one, humanity made friends in the darkness beyond the barrier. Each species had a story of being overlooked, rejected, or deemed unimportant by the Assembly. "They judge everyone by their own standards," Ryan observed during a meeting with Velocian leaders. "If you don't fit their idea of what intelligent life should be, they ignore you." "Yes," Collector agreed. "But you humans are different. You see value in all forms of life, perhaps because you know what rejection feels like." By year 35 after the exile, humanity had contacted 19 different species. Some were advanced, some were primitive, but all were willing to talk, to trade, to share knowledge. Kyle Hayes called another council meeting. He was over 100 years old now, his body failing despite the best medicine. but his mind was sharp as ever. "We need to formalize these relationships," he said. "Create a real alliance, not like the Assembly with their rules and judgments, something equal, where every voice matters." "What do you propose?" Lisa asked. "A council, but not one that rules from above, one that serves from within. Every member species gets equal representation. Decisions are made together. Technology is shared freely. No one is rejected for being different." A young diplomat named Claire Martinez stood up. She had been born after the exile, had spent her entire career working with the new alien friends. "We should call it the Free Systems Collective. Free because we're not bound by assembly prejudice. Systems because we're made of different star systems. Collective because we work together." The vote was unanimous. The Free Systems Collective was established in secret, deep in unexplored space. Humanity provided the organizational structure and advanced technology. The Velosians provided wisdom and long-term planning. The Krix provided engineering. The Frenthi provided artistic and cultural guidance. Every species contributed something unique, and it worked. Within 5 years, the FSC had secret stations in 20 star systems. Trade routes connected them. Shared research advanced all members. A human scientist working with a Velosian partner discovered new quantum communication methods. A Krix engineer working with human developers created ships that could survive inside stars. The FSC grew stronger while remaining hidden from the Assembly. Nicole Grant, the FSC's chief technology officer, stood before the council. "We've done it," she announced. "True universal translation. Every member species can now communicate in real time, no delays, no confusion. We're more connected than the Assembly ever was." As the council celebrated, Kyle Hayes watched from his medical bed. He was dying now, his body finally giving up. But he smiled. "We proved them wrong," he whispered to Ryan, who sat beside him. "They locked us away thinking we were dangerous. Instead, we became the galaxy's best hope for real cooperation. Rest now, old friend," Ryan said. "Your work is done." Kyle closed his eyes for the last time, but his dream lived on, growing stronger every day in the forgotten spaces between the stars. Eric Webb became Earth's Chancellor 53 years after the exile. He was a young man when the barrier went up, old enough to remember the pain of rejection, but young enough to see the opportunity in isolation. Now, at 78, he faced the biggest decision of his career. "Show me the latest member count," he said to his assistant. 31 species confirmed in the Free Systems Collective," came the reply. 17 more in negotiation. The network spans 400 star systems now. Eric walked to the window of his office on Earth. Below, the planet looked peaceful and prosperous. Humanity had thrived in exile. But the question that kept him awake at night was simple. What next? The FSC had grown beyond anyone's dreams. What started as a small alliance of rejected species had become something powerful. Their combined technology surpassed the Assembly in many ways. Their unity was real, not enforced by laws, but built on genuine friendship and mutual respect. But they remained hidden, secret, always looking over their shoulder, afraid the Assembly might discover them and see them as a threat. Claire Martinez entered the office without knocking. She had that privilege as chief diplomat and Eric's closest advisor. She was 50 now, having spent her entire adult life building bridges between species. "We have a situation," she said, her face serious. "The Dendari want to join us." Eric's eyebrows rose. "The Dendari? But they're an Assembly member species." "Not anymore. The Assembly expelled them last month. Apparently they refused to contribute ships to some military campaign. The Assembly called it treason. Now the Dendari are looking for new allies." "This changes everything," Eric said quietly. "If we accept them, the Assembly will eventually find out about us. They'll trace Dendari movements, investigate their contacts." "I know. But can we refuse?" We built the FSC on the principle that no one should be rejected for not fitting someone else's standards. The Dendari are pacifists. The Assembly expelled them for refusing to fight. If we turn them away, we become hypocrites. Eric made the decision. Bring them in. It's time anyway. We can't hide forever. The Dendari joined 3 weeks later. They were a species of tall, thin beings with silver skin and large eyes. Their gratitude was overwhelming. For 200 years, they had served the Assembly faithfully. When they finally stood up for their beliefs, they were cast out overnight. "You are the first to welcome us," their leader told the FSC Council. "The Assembly's other members were afraid to associate with us, but you did not hesitate." "We know what rejection feels like," Eric said simply. But Claire had been right. Within months, Assembly intelligence began picking up traces of something unusual. Ships traveling to regions marked as empty on their maps. Energy signatures where nothing should exist. Rumors of the Dendari not suffering as expected from their exile. Nicole Grant worked around the clock to improve FSC security. Her team developed new stealth technology, better encryption, faster warning systems. But she knew it was only a matter of time. "We need to prepare for contact," she told Eric. "When the Assembly finds us, and they will, we need to be ready." "Ready for what? War?" "No. Ready to show them what we've built. Ready to prove that their way isn't the only way." The FSC Council met to discuss the future. Representatives from 31 species filled the chamber, a far more diverse group than the Assembly had ever been. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some needed high gravity, others preferred zero gravity. Some communicated with sound, others with light, still others with chemical signals. But Nicole's translation technology made them one voice. "We must decide our path," Eric began. "Do we remain hidden, hoping the Assembly never finds us? Or do we reveal ourselves on our own terms?" A Velocian representative chimed in. "Hiding forever is not living. We have built something beautiful here. Why should we hide it like a shameful secret?" A Crix engineer clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. "But revelation means risk. The Assembly has power, military power. What if they see us as a threat?" "They already saw us as a threat," a human admiral named Alex Turner said. "That's why they locked us away. We can't live our entire existence afraid of their judgment." Claire stood to speak. "I propose we continue building, but we make plans for eventual revelation. We choose when and how the Assembly learns about us. We control the narrative." The vote took 3 hours of debate. In the end, the decision was unanimous. The FSC would prepare for revelation, but on their own timeline. Over the next 15 years, the FSC transformed. New stations were built, larger and more advanced. Defense networks were established, not for conquest, but for protection. Trade became more organized. Scientific cooperation reached new heights. A young scientist named Nicole worked with a team of mixed species to crack a problem humanity had struggled with for centuries. True artificial intelligence that was both conscious and ethical. The breakthrough came from combining human-computer science, Velocian philosophy, and Frenthy understanding of consciousness. The result was Sam, the first true AI mind, not a tool, but a person. The FSC granted Sam citizenship immediately, making it the 32nd member of the collective. "This is what we can do together," Claire said during the celebration. "Things no single species could achieve alone." But the greatest achievement was still ahead. A team of mixed species explorers discovered something incredible, a network of ancient space stations, abandoned for millions of years. The technology was far beyond anything the Assembly or FSC possessed. The stations were built by a species that had vanished long before any current civilization arose. "Look at this," Ryan Torres said, now 70 but still exploring. "These stations are connected by some kind of instant communication network. No light-speed delay. Messages arrive the moment they're sent. Nicole's teams studied the ancient technology for 2 years. Slowly, carefully, they began to understand it. And then, in a breakthrough that would change everything, they figured out how to reactivate it. Suddenly, the FSC had communication technology that made the assembly's systems look primitive. Messages could be sent instantly across hundreds of light years. Coordination became perfect. The FSC's scattered systems became truly unified. "We're becoming something the galaxy has never seen," Eric told the Council. "Not an empire built on conquest, not an alliance built on fear, but a true collective built on respect and cooperation." Lauren Pierce, a young ambassador who had been training under Claire, raised a concern. "But what about our responsibility? We have this amazing alliance, this advanced technology. Don't we have an obligation to share it?" "With the Assembly?" someone asked. "With everyone," Lauren said. "The Assembly is flawed, yes, but it contains billions of innocent beings who have done nothing wrong. If we keep all our advances to ourselves, aren't we being selfish?" It was a question no one had asked before. The FSC had been so focused on survival, on building something new, that they hadn't considered their broader responsibility. Eric thought about it for a long time. "We're not ready yet," he finally said. "But Lauren is right. Eventually, we'll need to share what we've learned, not by force, not by revealing ourselves as superior, but by offering help when it's truly needed." "And when will that be?" a Dendari asked. "We'll know," Claire said quietly. "Something will happen that requires our intervention. And when it does, we'll be ready to step out of the shadows." None of them knew how soon that moment would come. In assembly space, far from FSC territory, something stirred in the darkness. A species the Assembly had tried to contain centuries ago, a species they thought they had defeated. The Vex Dominion was waking up, and when it fully awakened, the galaxy would need heroes. The FSC, built by the rejected and forgotten, was about to become the galaxy's only hope. The first Vex attack hit an Assembly border world without warning. 5 billion souls lived on Carathis Prime. Within 3 days, it was silent. Commander Megan Foster was monitoring FSC border sensors when the energy readings started coming in. She had been with FSC military intelligence for 20 years, tracking Assembly movements from the shadows. But this was different. This was catastrophic. "Pull up all available data on Carathis Prime," she ordered. The screens filled with information. Then suddenly all signals from the planet stopped. "What just happened?" her deputy asked. "I don't know, but an entire planet just went dark." Over the next week, 2 more Assembly worlds fell silent. The FSC intelligence network picked up panicked transmissions from Assembly ships fleeing the region. The word Vex appeared repeatedly in their messages. Alex Turner, now the FSC's chief military strategist, brought the reports to the Council. He was 65, a career soldier who had spent the last 30 years developing FSC defense doctrine. He had hoped to never use it. "The Vex Dominion has returned," he explained. "The Assembly fought them 200 years ago. They thought the Vex were destroyed, but apparently they were just sleeping." "What are the Vex?" Eric Webb asked. He was over 100 now, kept alive by advanced medicine, still serving as Chancellor. "A hive mind species. They absorb other life forms, turning them into part of the collective. Every being they capture becomes a Vex soldier. They're like a biological plague that thinks and plans." Claire Martinez, now in her 80s but still sharp, asked the critical question. "What is the Assembly doing about it?" "They're mobilizing, but their forces are spread thin. The Assembly has been at peace for so long, their military is outdated. From what we're seeing, they're losing badly." The council chamber fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. "We need to discuss our options," Eric said carefully. A young FSC officer named Sam Quinn spoke up. He was half human, half Velocian, one of the first children born from interspecies genetic blending. He represented the new generation, those who had never known life before the FSC. "What options?" Sam asked. "The Assembly locked us away, called us dangerous, rejected us. Now they're dying, and we're supposed to help them?" "Billions of innocent people are dying," Lauren Pierce countered. She was now one of the FSC's senior ambassadors, Claire's protege and heir. "Yes, the Assembly's leaders made terrible decisions, but the common people didn't choose to exile us. They were just living their lives. If we help them, we reveal ourselves," a Crix representative pointed out. "The Assembly will know we exist, know we've become powerful. They might see us as a threat." "Let them," Alex said firmly. "I've spent my entire career preparing for the possibility of conflict with the Assembly. You know what I've learned? We're stronger, not just militarily, but in every way that matters. We work together. They work in hierarchy. We innovate. They follow tradition. If we wanted to conquer them, we probably could. But we don't want that," Eric said quietly. "No," Alex agreed. "We want to save them, because that's what makes us better than them." The debate lasted for hours. Some argued for intervention. Others said the Assembly deserved their fate. A few suggested waiting until both sides were weakened, then stepping in. Finally, Claire stood. She was old now, her hair white, her movements slow. But her voice was strong. "I was born before the exile," she said. "I remember the hope we felt approaching Nexus Prime for the first time. And I remember the crushing pain of rejection. For decades, I carried anger in my heart. But building the FSC taught me something. Revenge is empty. Punishment is hollow. The only thing that truly matters is what we choose to build." She looked around the chamber at the faces of 31 different species, united in purpose. "If we let the Assembly fall, we prove them right. We prove that humanity and all our friends are what they feared, species that value survival over compassion. But if we help them, if we save the people who rejected us, we prove something greater. We prove that mercy is not weakness, that forgiveness is strength." The vote was close, but it passed. The FSC would intervene. But secretly at first. Alex took command of the operation. His plan was elegant in its simplicity. FSC ships would use their superior stealth technology to strike Vex forces from the shadows. To the Assembly, it would look like the Vex were simply failing for unknown reasons. Megan Foster led the first strike. Her squadron of mixed-species ships, using technology the Assembly couldn't detect, hit a Vex fleet preparing to assault an Assembly colony. The battle lasted 3 hours. The Vex never saw their attackers. "Ghost Fleet confirmed successful," Megan reported. "All Vex vessels destroyed. Assembly colony saved. No witnesses." Over the next 3 months, FSC Ghost Fleets appeared across the war zone. They disrupted Vex supply lines, destroyed Vex hive ships, saved dozens of worlds. The Assembly military was baffled. Vex forces that should have been unstoppable were failing mysteriously. Assembly intelligence agencies went into overdrive. Their analysts studied every battle, looking for patterns. Slowly, they began to piece together the truth. Someone was helping them. Someone with technology far beyond their own. Sam Quinn was on a reconnaissance mission when his ship's stealth field failed. He found himself face to face with an Assembly patrol. "Unidentified vessel, power down your weapons," the Assembly captain ordered. Sam had a choice. He could fight his way out, or he could let himself be captured and potentially expose the FSC. "Stand down," he ordered his crew. "Let them take us." The Assembly captain couldn't believe what his scanners were showing. The small ship contained technology that shouldn't exist, and its crew included a human, working alongside aliens the Assembly had never seen before. "Who are you?" the captain demanded. "Friends," Sam said simply. "We've been fighting the Vex, trying to help you. Humans were exiled, locked behind a barrier. We found a way around it. And we found others like us, species you rejected or ignored. We built something new together." The captain sent Sam's ship and crew to a secure assembly station for questioning. Within days, the information reached the highest levels of assembly government. Speaker Venn, now ancient but still in charge, called an emergency council session. He reviewed the reports 3 times, not believing what he was reading. "The humans escaped their exile," he said slowly, "and they've been saving us." "Not just humans," an intelligence officer reported. "They've formed some kind of alliance with dozens of species, many we've never seen before. Their technology is remarkably advanced, and they've been fighting the Vex in secret, protecting our worlds." "Why?" another council member asked. "Why would they help us after what we did to them?" No one had an answer. Meanwhile, the Vex had figured out that someone was interfering. They adapted their strategy, launching a massive assault on multiple targets simultaneously. The FSC ghost fleets couldn't be everywhere at once. The Vex primary force headed straight for Nexus Prime, the Assembly's capital, the heart of their civilization. If it fell, the Assembly would collapse completely. Megan received the intelligence report and immediately contacted Alex. "They're going for Nexus Prime. Everything they have, all at once." "How long until they arrive?" 6 days. "Can the Assembly defend it?" "Not a chance. Their fleet is scattered. They'll be overwhelmed." Alex made the call to Eric and the FSC Council. "We're out of time. If we're going to save them, we need to do it openly. No more shadows." Eric looked at Claire. She nodded slowly. "Do it," Eric said. "Reveal ourselves. Save them. And let the galaxy see what we've become." Orders went out across the FSC network. Every available ship from every member species was to converge on Nexus Prime. They would arrive before the Vex. And when they did, the galaxy would see the truth. The rejected species had become its saviors. The Assembly Defense Fleet around Nexus Prime numbered 300 ships. They formed a desperate last line of protection around the massive station that had been the center of galactic government for 1,000 years. On the station itself, 47 species waited in fear as the Vex Armada approached. Speaker Venn stood at the command center, watching the tactical display. 2,000 Vex ships were coming. His 300 would last minutes at best. "Is there any word from our other fleets?" he asked. "They won't arrive in time," his tactical officer reported. "We're alone." Then, suddenly, the sensors went wild. "Sir, we're detecting new ships entering the system. Hundreds of them. No, thousands." "Reinforcements?" Venn asked, hope rising. "Unknown. The ship designs don't match anything in our database." On the view screen, a sight appeared that no one in the Assembly had ever witnessed. Ships of every imaginable design, representing dozens of different engineering philosophies, dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. They moved with a coordination that spoke of long practice working together. At the center of the formation flew a ship that made several Assembly officers gasp. It bore Earth's flag. A communication came through on all Assembly frequencies. The voice was calm, confident, and unmistakably human. "Nexus Prime, this is Commander Ben Lucas of the Free Systems Collective. We're here to help. Please stand by." Venn's hands shook. "Humans. But how?" Ben Lucas sat in the command chair of the FSC flagship Unity. Around him, his bridge crew represented 7 different species working in perfect harmony. Human navigators coordinated with Velocian tactical officers. Crick's engineers managed power systems alongside Frenthie communication specialists. "All ships report ready," his second officer, a woman named Kate Brennan, reported. She was the FSC's senior military coordinator, having trained under Alex Turner himself. "Vex fleet entering weapons range in 2 minutes," another officer called out. Ben opened a channel to the entire FSC fleet. Remember, we're not here to be heroes. We're here to protect innocent lives. Every ship we disable is one that can't hurt civilians. Precision over power. Save everyone we can. The Vex arrived like a swarm of locusts. Their ships were organic-looking, grown rather than built, pulsing with stolen life force. They immediately began their assault on Nexus Prime's defenses. The assembly ships opened fire, but their weapons barely scratched the Vex hull. Within minutes, 50 assembly ships were destroyed or captured. Then the FSC fleet engaged. The difference was startling. FSC weapons, developed through the cooperation of dozens of species, cut through Vex shields like they didn't exist. FSC ships moved with incredible agility, dodging Vex fire with ease, and most importantly, they fought as one unified force. Ben watched the tactical display with satisfaction. Target their Hive command ships, take out their coordination, and the rest will fall into chaos. Megan Foster led a strike wing of fast attack ships. They weaved through the Vex formation, drawing fire away from the heavier FSC cruisers. "I've got a lock on target Alpha," she reported. "Firing!" The Vex command ship exploded in a burst of purple energy. Immediately, hundreds of nearby Vex ships began operating erratically, their hive mind link severed. "Target Beta is mine," Sam Quinn called out. His mixed-species crew worked with perfect efficiency, destroying the second Vex command ship. On Nexus Prime, Speaker Venn watched in amazement. The mysterious fleet was dismantling the Vex armada with surgical precision. And they were doing it while protecting the assembly ships that got caught in the crossfire. "Who are they?" someone asked. "The species we threw away," Venn said quietly. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Vex fleet was destroyed. The FSC had lost only 12 ships. The assembly had survived. Ben opened a channel to Nexus Prime. "Speaker Venn, this is Commander Lucas. The immediate threat has been neutralized. We're standing by to provide humanitarian assistance if needed." Venn's reply was slow in coming. "Commander Lucas, you saved us. You saved billions of lives. How can we thank you?" "By listening," Ben said. "We need to talk. All of us. The Assembly, the FSC, everyone. Because this war isn't over, and next time we might not arrive in time." 3 days later, a historic meeting took place. For the first time in 78 years, humans walked on Nexus Prime, but they didn't come alone. Kate Brennan led the FSC delegation. She was accompanied by representatives from every member species, Volosians, Cricks, Frenthi, and dozens of others the Assembly had never met. And behind them all, as a gesture of the FSC's values, came Sam, the artificial intelligence that had been granted full citizenship. The Assembly Council chamber was packed. Every member species attended, but this time they were quiet, humbled. Kate stood at the center podium, the same place where humanity had been condemned 78 years ago. "My name is Kate Brennan," she began. "I'm speaking today on behalf of the Free Systems Collective, an alliance of 31 species who found each other in the places you deemed worthless. We are the rejected, the ignored, the forgotten, and we're here to tell you our story." She spoke for an hour. She told them how humanity had found ways around the barrier, how they met other species the Assembly had overlooked, how they built a society based on cooperation and mutual respect, how they advanced beyond Assembly technology by sharing knowledge freely rather than hoarding it. "We could have stayed hidden," Kate said. "We could have let you face the Vex alone." Some in our council argued for exactly that. "You hurt us deeply when you exiled humanity. You denied us the chance to prove ourselves." Speaker Venn looked down, shame evident on his features. "But we chose differently," Kate continued. "We chose to help, not because you deserved it, not because we wanted your gratitude, but because it was right, because sentient lives matter, regardless of past mistakes." Lauren Pierce stood next, carrying the weight of her mentor Claire's legacy. "We're not here to punish you or to seek revenge. We're here to offer something better than the Assembly, and better than the FSC standing alone. We're here to offer true unity." She outlined the proposal. The Assembly and FSC would merge into a new organization. Every species, whether current Assembly member or FSC member, would have equal representation. Decisions would be made by consensus. Technology would be shared freely. No species would ever be judged for being different. "We call it the Galactic Union," Lauren said. "Not an assembly where some are more important than others, not a collective hidden in the shadows, but a true union where every voice matters." The debate lasted 3 days. Some assembly members resisted. They didn't want to give up their positions of power. Others worried that accepting this proposal meant admitting how wrong they had been. But the common people had no such doubts. Across assembly space, billions of beings celebrated the FSC for saving them. They demanded their governments accept the offer. On the 3rd day, Speaker Venn called for a vote. He had lived long enough to see his greatest mistake become his greatest lesson. 78 years ago, I stood here and condemned humanity, he said, his voice heavy with regret. I called them dangerous. I convinced this assembly to lock them away. I was wrong, not just about humans, but about what makes a species worthy of respect. He looked directly at Kate. You proved that worthiness is not about appearing peaceful. It's about choosing peace when you have the power to choose otherwise. You could have destroyed us. Instead, you saved us. That is true strength. The vote was called. This time, it was unanimous. The Galactic Assembly agreed to dissolve itself and join the Galactic Union. Eric Webb watched the ceremony from Earth. He was too old to make the journey to Nexus Prime, but the live feed showed everything. Tears ran down his ancient face as he watched Kate sign the charter that officially ended humanity's exile. Claire Martinez sat beside him. She was even older than Eric, barely able to move. But her mind was clear. "We did it," she whispered. "We turned pain into purpose, rejection into redemption." "You did it," Eric corrected. "Your vision made this possible." Claire smiled. "No, humanity did it. All of us. We refused to become what they feared. Instead, we became what they needed." The Galactic Union's first act was to appoint Beth Cameron as its first High Coordinator. She was young, only 40, representing the generation that had never known the old divisions. She was also the daughter of a human father and a Velocian mother, a living symbol of what cooperation could create. "My first official act," Beth announced to the gathered species, "is to establish the Unity Fleet, a combined force of all our species, dedicated to protecting every member of our union. The Vex may return, other threats may emerge, but we'll face them together." Her second act was even more significant. "We will also establish the Exploration Corps. Now that we're united, we will explore the galaxy together. Not to conquer, not to judge, but to discover. To learn. To welcome any species we find, regardless of how different they are from us." The ceremony ended with a gesture that brought tears to many eyes. The old quantum barrier around human space was dismantled. The pieces were melted down and forged into a monument that was placed at the center of Nexus Prime. It bore a simple inscription: "In memory of our mistakes, in hope of our future, may we never again judge a species by our fears, but always by their deeds." 5 years later, Beth Cameron stood on the bridge of an exploration ship, leading a mission into completely uncharted space. Her crew was mixed, as all Union crews now were. Humans working with former Assembly species working with former FSC species, all united in purpose. "New star system detected ahead," her navigator reported. "Preliminary scans show signs of artificial structures." "Another civilization?" Beth asked. "Possibly. Should we approach?" Beth thought about her history, about humanity's rejection and redemption, about the lessons learned at such great cost. "Send a greeting message in all known languages," she ordered, "and make sure the first thing we say is this: we come in peace. We seek only friendship and understanding. You will never be judged for being different. You will always be welcomed as equals." As the ship moved forward into the unknown, Beth smiled. The galaxy had learned its lesson, and humanity, once forgotten and exiled, had taught it. The age of true unity had begun,